Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to TrepTalks. This is the show where I interview successful e-commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them to dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Bill Spohn to the show. Bill is the founder of TruTechTools Limited. TruTech is one of the largest online stores in the niche market of tools and test instruments for heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration technicians. They're also the major supplier to a smaller market of technicians that do energy audits and assess building performance, including indoor air quality. And they primarily serve customers in the US and Canada. And today I'm going to ask Bill a few questions about his entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So Bill, thank you so much for your time today, and really appreciate you joining me today at TrepTalks.
Thank you for the invitation, Sushant. My pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So yeah, let's start with your story. I think I was doing a little bit of a research and reading about you, and you started this business or co-founded this business with a couple of other partners, and then you kind of bought them out and went on your own. So can you share a little bit about what were you doing before you got into this, like an e-commerce business, and how did you decide to start this specific, selling these kind of products?
So I like to say the business was built out of frustration. I worked for two manufacturers for 10 years each, making the kind of products that I sell today through e-commerce. And the frustration came, and it was one of the co-founders, a father and son, who were similarly frustrated. Like, there's lots of good things you can do with these tools. People just need to bridge the educational aspect. So they came up with the idea to start the company and started engaging me in discussions. So I call myself co-founder, or there like on day two, perhaps not day one, but I did actually help pick the name for the company. So it was pretty early on in the stages. And then after a while, I guess their collective advice was really good. The company started to grow tremendously fast in the early stages, and we needed to provide some business structure. So I took the leap of faith that I'd be able to continue to pay bills, make payroll, and sustain off of it. And we've never looked back. And actually, our founding investment was just under $20,000.
Okay.
And we don't have any other capital injected in the business.
Well, was this one of its kind of a e-commerce business when you started? I believe you started in 2007.
Right.
Was the reason that you grew really fast in this was because there were no other e-commerce businesses selling similar products?
I think it was early on in e-commerce. And there were a couple other companies that started, maybe even like in the late 90s, that were doing similar things, similar products. But my colleagues, my co-founders, and I had really strong connections by working for manufacturers, being supportive, being recognized. So sort of like you could believe what we said is true. And there's where the true comes from in TruTech.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about your products? I mean, are these mostly from well-known manufacturers within United States and Canada, or some of these products or brands are kind of international as well, or some of them are your own brands that you're selling on your website?
Sure. So we deal only with brands that have a U.S. office. One of my goals is to keep things simple for us to do fulfillment, so our customers can stay happy. And then we can be very clear about that. As we grow, we may expand beyond that. So every one of the brands is either founded in or has a major office in the United States. And it also facilitates having local inventory, on the domestic shores, as well as having somebody to speak with who's like in our time zones that we can communicate with for any kind of issues in developing the business. So we carry 100 different brands, but I would say that about a dozen of them are significant, and they can be found, almost every one of them can be found somewhere else to buy. So we're in competition as a store, but it's the way in which we deliver that we feel is important.
What is that way? Like, what is your unique value proposition to the customer?
Sure. I like to say we don't sell disappointment.
Okay.
We only and any that people say, what do you manufacture? What do you make? I said we make people happy.
Okay.
We are very clear about describing the products, the technical details, the application details, and providing connection to supporting information to help you do the application better. It's sort of people may be familiar with the Simon Sinek video that goes way back into the late 90s, where he talked about the why, the how, and then the what. So the why is we want to make sure our customers, they have a purpose for doing a task. The how is, are they using best practices? And if not, we'll help you connect you with those. And then the what is we fit you with the right kind of tool to do in the right method to do what you want to do.
So your basic, I mean, your business model is relatively simple. I mean, you're basically buying the products wholesale and retailing them, but your value add is that education product and maybe the customer service aspect of it. That's where the customer finds the most value is, they're buying from you, they're getting that education, they're getting all the documentation and so forth. And then in terms of making the customer happy, I'm assuming you have a great customer service,
Yes,
customer support
and
team.
we spend time training them, getting them trained. And actually, we're unique in that we go to trade shows. A lot of times, the manufacturers would appear at a trade show and not a distributor. We go to trade shows where we're a distributor, and we get a lot of attention because we bring a variety of products, a variety of choice, and then all that underlying detail. And because our backgrounds are technical, some of the key people in the company, we actually do technical presentations and get asked to engage to communicate with the audience. And again, that's where we teach that how aspect. We understand the why, we help you understand the how, and then leave it up to them to decide where to buy. But usually we've developed kind of a trust that connects us.
So these products are really helping the people or the technicians who are working on like residential homes or business properties or and I think in recent years, given the demand, especially at Canada, there's a huge demand of homes. Is this industry, like, do you see this industry continue to experience growth, like the demand keeps on growing for these kind of products?
I think we're in a unique position because we sell the tools that allow you to create, service, and maintain the built environment, and that would be heating, cooling, ventilation, filtration, as well as even some of that subset products you talked about for building performance, for energy audits. It's the shell, it's the enclosure, that's the building envelope that we sell products that allow you to test the integrity and the performance of that. So we really are, our goal is, I should have it here in front of me. I'm going to pull it out here. But we have our purpose is help technicians create better environments for people. So we help technicians create better environments. An environment could be like a refrigerated warehouse, because that's an environment that serves people. And our niche is supplying HVAC and building performance tools and best practices together. And so that's part of our tagline is quality tools, essential support. We keep on hitting that mantra often.
And your business is completely direct to consumer e-commerce, like you don't have any retail stores?
Correct. Direct to contractor, that's our consumer, but I call like a technical consumer. So literally consumers don't buy our products. You probably wouldn't, but someone who services the equipment in the buildings you live or work in would buy that equipment. So business to technical consumer, yes.
So what was it like? I mean, you were kind of working with these manufacturers in the past, and now you're in the e-commerce business. Of course, you're selling specific products, but when you had started out in 2007, I mean, e-commerce was pretty new at that time. Where did the idea come that, let's start e-commerce because this is, this may be the way of the future. And of course, e-commerce, I'm assuming there was a bit of a learning curve, like who was kind of leading the e-commerce business or the technical aspect of that? And are you still involved in kind of the e-commerce day-to-day aspect of things?
Sure. Yeah, actually, it was the father and son team. It was they went to a meeting with one of our vendors because my colleague Jim was working with one of our vendors, and it was in Germany, and the managers there said, you should start an internet company as a hobby. And he heard that from two people, and he came back with that idea buzzing in his head. And so he and his son started to put together pieces and got me involved. And that's how it all got started. It really came at the suggestion of a manufacturer who perhaps had a vision about e-commerce.
Awesome. What has been your learnings in e-commerce, like your website? Can you share a little bit about, what kind of platform you're using, and how have you, I mean, I definitely want to ask you about marketing, but purely from an e-commerce perspective, like, is everything in-house? Are you working with like an external agency to manage your website? I mean, you have a large number of SKUs. How do you manage everything? Like, how do you ensure that your stock levels are up to date and things like that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So we actually just transitioned to BigCommerce just under 2 months ago. And that was part of our growth, necessitated that from the platform that we left behind. We have an in-house team. We have a marketing department, and we have 2 people that are dedicated, webmaster and assistant webmaster, dedicated to maintaining the product listing on the website. We also tie to another system called ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, which for people not familiar, to me, the basic thing is it's accounting plus inventory. So it does all your accounting, all your books, plus it keeps track of your inventory. So we have everything's barcode read into our warehouse, barcoded out. So we know sort of instantaneous tracking of the assets of the products that we're selling. And that also ties back into the website. And again, I talked before about clarity for the customer. We provide real-time inventory levels. So we won't sell any disappointment, like you thought we had 10 and you tried to buy 10 and we only had 2. We'll tell you we have 2. And if we're out of stock totally, we'll tell you when we think we're going to get them back into stock. So again, it's just being very upfront about delivering that information.
Are you on any marketplaces like Amazon?
No, we steered away from those. We feel like with our real human touch aspect, that would be lost. So you can buy some of the products we sell on Amazon, many of them, in fact, but we like to do the hands-on approach, and also, have them in our inventory, ship them directly to the customer, know what's going on, and also be able to provide them with that connection between the why, the how, and the what.
Can you talk a little bit about your competition? I'm assuming there are many now, even in the e-commerce world. And for these kind of products where you're the distributor, I'm assuming the manufacturer places some sort of a minimum, or the minimum price instructions. Yep. Where it's not a competition to the bottom in between the competitors.
Right. Things don't go into free fall on price. There is minimum advertised pricing policies that have varying levels of detail. And I will tell you one thing, we love them because that allows us to compete on other attributes of service rather than just on the price. And in fact, in some cases, a handful of cases, we've actually taken and drafted for our manufacturing partners MAP policies and given to them and say, please consider doing this, because they end up with, a lot of griping and complaining from their various distributors that, hey, these people are going way down in price. What are you going to do about it? Then they got to manage all that kind of conflict. If they just set a floor, and they share it with everybody and they police it, and it often self-polices, then everybody can operate with their own best attributes.
Now, I did read somewhere that you work remotely, or you're kind of separated from like the rest of the team or something.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Can you share a little bit about your team structure? Is your team mostly remote? Like, are people required to come to office? How does your team work, and how do you manage as a remote manager?
Sure. And I was on another recording recently, and no, I'm not artificial intelligence. So I'm not AI generated. I've actually was one of the manufacturers I worked with. I started working from home in 1999 and worked remotely, and sort of developed sort of habits and patterns and communication methods and a rhythm that worked really well for me. And then when I had the opportunity to join TruTech full time, it was already established by that father-son team near Akron, Ohio. And it's like, just for me, I'm going to rip up 3 or 4 people and try to move this someplace. No, I'm not going to do that. So we just kept on building and growing there. In 2014, I brought in one of my loyal employees, Eric, who's the general manager, and he's a co-owner too. So he has skin in the game, general manager. He's the one that's there every day, maintaining the ship, if you will. So that's how that works. And we've actually worked on, in the last just over a year, we've worked with a system called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which I would highly recommend. It's based on a book called Traction, but there's all kinds of offshoots from it. And actually, the thing that attracted me to it is it really helps leadership define the team, define the roles, define our values, and define a 10-year plan, a 10-year vision, and then a 1-year plan. And all of it exists on 2 pieces of paper. So it's really easy and succinct to compare, to get people on the same page, literally on the same 2 pages about where the business is going. So I think that's been a real asset, and also hiring people we can trust. So there's a concept, again, this comes from Entrepreneurial Operating System, called GWC. Gets it, wants it, has the capacity to do it. It comes in other flavors, that same kind of sentiment, other business books, but I really like it. It's like, when somebody gets it, and then when they want it, that position, that role, and they have the capacity to do it. So that's a real eye opener and clarifier when we're communicating with people and hiring people.
Awesome. I mean, I'm thinking about, you mentioned artificial intelligence, and got me thinking. I mean, your business, it seems like, is AI proof because artificial intelligence is not going to affect, I mean, people are still going to live in houses. There's still going to be, these kind of need for these kind of products, like technicians still need to go and work on the things.
The mechanical equipment will need to be, and the thing is, we're I would say, it's hard to say absolute anything, but we're somewhat recession proof, because either you're building new construction or you're maintaining existing equipment. In both modes, you're using the tools we sell.
Definitely, yeah. Are you using any sort of AI technology, or your team experimenting with some sort of AI into marketing, or the way you're doing inventory management or things like that?
Not so much in the business processes at this point, but we've just, I think, the last 2 months, and my son has been a real spearhead. He's young. Well, my son, he's younger than me, right? He has been a spearhead in actually doing some coaching of our leadership team and using AI to analyze data, to come up with sort of like target questions for a meeting, to work on agendas and things like that. And I use it I use Bard a lot for like quick summaries of topics. I need to have some substance here to boil down my argument to, and I can do that through Bard. I do that a lot.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about your marketing and also fulfillment, but let's talk a bit about marketing. How do you I mean, you've been around since, I would say, more than what, 16 years now.
Yep.
How have you seen customer acquisition online? I mean, so much has changed, SEO has changed, advertising has changed. How do you, what does your customer acquisition look like, and how has it changed since 2007?
Um, so originally, one of the father and son, Jim, he was doing our online advertising with Google advertising. And that was really in the earliest stages of that. Jim had to exit the company, and we found a third party expert to run our CPC, and they have to this day. They continue to run it to this day. So they help us with campaigns and spend economically to attract people from the Google ad standpoint. And then with our technical content, we get a lot of organic traffic that way. We also do some emailing, but we also believe word of mouth is really large for us. And then the new word of mouth are called influencers. And we've teamed up, we think are probably almost a dozen of the top influencers who want to work with us. Actually, we're starting to turn down people who would like to be an influencer tied to us, and it's just starting to get a little saturated. But they do things like have podcasts, live streams, do blogs. Some of them have apps. Some of them even have products. Technicians have built products of their own on their side. And we just try to help first and give more and expect less later. Not that they're going to give us less, but we don't have there's not a quid pro quo in every instance. It's really if we go back to our purpose, again, those simple words, help technicians create better environments for people. Sometimes that means giving away stuff, information, things like that. And we believe in it. We believe we're good stewards for our industry.
I mean, I'm assuming like the influencers, whoever the influencer is in this kind of an industry, I would assume it would be a more effective marketing channel, because a random person would not go and follow that influencer. I mean, anybody who's following an influencer, like they have to be into this kind of thing. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So, if they're following an influencer and they have a following, I think, if they talk about, your company, I think it definitely makes more sense rather than, just a regular influencer, let's say, who's talking about fashion or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then these are technical influencers for the most part, technical and business influencers that are in our markets. And then I do a couple of podcasts. So I guess I'm an influencer too, but I'll also invite some of those influencers on my podcast to talk about what they're doing. So again, we have a lot of information flowing back and forth. And I'll just say, people have told us this: we're hard to miss in our market. If you're in our market, we're pretty hard to miss.
Okay. I mean, that's a great thing. Like, if you're hard to miss, I think that's the best thing to have.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your warehousing and fulfillment? And do you have, in this category, do you have like a high return rate, and how do you manage that?
So we bring products, probably about 95% of our shipments, maybe even higher, come from our warehouse. So we bring products in, we scan them as they go in, we put them away in location codes, and then we receive the orders, and we pick and pack those orders and send them back out. So and we've got some really clever people that have helped arrange our warehouse to make it very efficient. And we keep on modifying it as things change, seasonality. Like, we'll put products that are really popular in the summertime that are big and heavy right near the door. So they come in a few feet, they get parked, and then they leave maybe the next day, a couple of feet, they're off on a truck. So we minimize the amount of motion that's required. With returns, we have a 30-day return policy, and we were sort of handling it just ad hoc. Whoever got the call took care of it, but we actually have established a returns manager, and our returns manager is technically oriented, and he tries first to talk to the customer about why do you want to return it? We're not going to say no, but why? Sometimes he can help them solve the problem, and they're not without the product. They're not unhappy, whatever. He can help. I don't know statistics on it, but he can often help them get back to using the product. It might be something very simple that they missed. So we coach them in using the products. And then if it isn't working out, if it's a defect, we get the paperwork going, get it back in, handle the refund.
So you are shipping in Canada also. Do you have a warehouse in Canada, or you're basically, when you get the order, you just ship it out from the US?
From the US at this point.
From the US. Yeah. Okay. And do you charge shipping fees? Do you offer like a certain day kind of a fulfillment promise or something like that? Or is it, how does that work?
In the United States, we have free shipping when the order is more than $49. Okay. And we started off a few years ago at $99, then we dropped to $79 for competitive reasons. And then during COVID, I felt horrible that people couldn't go out and shop. So we dropped it to $49. And we've stuck there since COVID, since 2020. And we, I forgot the other question there.
Shipping to Canada, do you have, you said you ship directly from the US,
ship from the US. Yeah. Oh, okay. And then the shipping guarantees, we are working with, our providers or typical providers, USPS, FedEx, and UPS, to implement faster shipping. And we even have created a new level of like a guaranteed 2-day for a small fee, very small fee. It's only a portion of the shipping cost, but allows customers to choose that. And we've seen a lot of good uptake of that because people then know they're going to get it.
I would assume, I think your shipping policy makes a lot of sense, because I think most of the products on your site are probably more than $49.
Yeah, there's a handful below that. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you seen, did you see any uptake in, or, increase in average order value when you kind of reduce your shipping, free shipping threshold from 99 to 49? Because what I've heard from other e-commerce owners is like free shipping is kind of a huge driver of order value.
Yeah. Well, actually, you got to remember it was during COVID. So we did it sort of as a measure to counteract. We did it very quickly. Our sales dropped by 50% for about 2 weeks. Okay. But then it started to rebound. And I think there was just, people figured out what was going on. A lot of people, some states had work restrictions, others didn't. Some of the wholesalers or bricks and mortar wholesalers had real heavy restrictions on entering their stores, closing their warehouses. So we saw an extreme rise in our business that went beyond our growth plan for 2020. And in 2021, it continued. 2022 started to level off a little bit, but it really helped us build our sales volume year over year.
So the promise of an e-commerce business, of course, is, you can have the business running 24/7, right? So, right. Of course, you have a large team and, everybody's managing it. But there is definitely a benefit of, to the owner, is that you don't have to be there to, or thinking about, maybe you think about your business all the time, but in what capacity are you involved, like in a day-to-day basis? Like what metrics are you kind of looking at, and what do you think about in terms of your business growth over time?
So we actually, through this EOS system, I keep mentioning it because that's the way we run our business. We actually have a weekly scorecard, and we have, there's 5 other people and myself on the leadership team, and they all have metrics. I don't have any. They all have metrics that they report on, and try to understand what's driving our business and how are those metrics doing according to our plans. So I rely upon those weekly meetings to get my updates. And then, anything, emergencies happen like power outage, internet outage, I'll hear about those quickly. But we figure out a way to resolve those, within hours to days.
So would you say that your daily schedule right now is most like you have enough free time to kind of, you mentioned that today you're coming from like giving conference lecture or something.
Right.
You have enough time to be able to do like these kind of things, like, share knowledge. You're doing podcasts, you're doing this podcast. So, I mean, in a way, it seems like you've kind of reached the entrepreneur's dreamland.
Yeah.
The promise of entrepreneurship is that, you get to use your time the way you want to. But initially, the entrepreneurs are, of course, working almost 20 hours a day if they have to get the business going. But, this is kind of the dreamland where you have the time to pursue what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think I've really only started to appreciate that, but thank you for recognizing that. It does seem to be that way. I actually have roles in the company, and that the role in this EOS system is called visionary. I'm supposed to help define the vision, and be looking broadly across the markets, and listening to customers, engaging with them. And then managing the culture of the business, setting it up to be correct culture, and watching around the business to make sure we're doing things that are in line with what I believe the culture should be.
Awesome. And, I know you mentioned entrepreneurial operating system. What is your vision for the next 10 years? Like, where do you see your business 10 years down the road? Is it going to be the same business, but maybe more products? Maybe you're growing internationally. How do you see your business growing, or keeping itself competitive over time in the next 10 years or so?
It's hard to be specific, but we think we could 3x the business from where it is now. Last year was 25 million, and we think over the next 10 years we can hit 75 million. And what I can see is we'll perhaps have more regional representation for our business, but that might come through trainers, and maybe not a store for products, but meeting people where they're at, literally, to help them understand the how and the why, and then the what will be delivered, that kind of thing.
Do you enjoy being an entrepreneur? I mean, of course, you had your professional life working as an employee, I believe, and was there a transition for you into entrepreneurship? There's this age-old question, are entrepreneurs born or made? I mean, to me, it seems like you were, you got into it after having a large year of professional experience.
Yeah.
How do you see entrepreneurship, and what was it difficult for you to transition into this kind of a role?
I don't think so. I don't recall it being difficult, because in the early stages it was, I need to make sure everything runs correctly, and the small handful of employees that we have, helping them at every instance, just help set up systems, answer questions, solve problems, provide information. So it was just that constant, business building of being involved so much in the daily aspects of the business. And I think I always had the idea, like from a teenager, that I wanted to run my own business. I had no idea what it would be. After I graduated college with an engineering degree, I felt my business would be the future would be related to energy. And it really is. It's the way energy is used and consumed inside homes and buildings is what we help to prepare for. And but I just sort of watched and took mental notes along the way of things I liked in the companies I worked for and the people I worked with, things I didn't like, and then tried to use that matrix to make decisions on a daily basis as I was responsible for things. What would I like to see do if I was in that person's situation? So I do a lot of out-of-body experience.
Awesome. In every entrepreneur's journey, there's always mistakes made, lessons learned, failures. What has been your, one or two big failures or, lessons learned that you think you could, that, you could have benefited from it being avoided, and, what can other entrepreneurs learn from your mistakes or failures?
Sure. It's sort of like not understanding your role in the marketplace. Like at one point we thought we could manufacture a better product, especially because two people came to us that had this idea, but they were actually, we found out later, they were stealing ideas, but we funded them, and it ended up that they just ran off with the money. So just sort of like not understanding our role in the marketplace, and then getting, I'll say, you know, at least mentally greedy, a little bit greedy with the situation. Like we can do it better. So that's helped us. You know, that's one. Another one is not paying attention to all, you know, the specific legal requirements of doing business. We made a couple mistakes along the way. We've since corrected those mistakes, but in that case, it's like either, you know, can you figure it out on your own, or should you hire a professional to help you figure it out? We now decide to hire a professional to bridge the gap in our understanding and make sure we're compliant in every aspect. So those are the two big ones.
Okay. Now I'm going to move on to our rapid fire segment. In this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in a couple of words or a sentence or so. I know you already mentioned Entrepreneur Operating System, but any other book recommendation for entrepreneurs, and why?
I would say Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. Yeah. Okay, cool.
And why? Because it can, you know, make you better. You train yourself to be better.
And the idea for that book really is to make small incremental improvements, or? Yeah,
right. It's small, 1% improvements over the course of a year is 37, exponential is 37x or 3.7x, something like that.
An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
AI is really exciting. Just the simple uses we've made, and I know other people are making other uses. That's a very exciting thing for me.
Okay. A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
Calendly for controlling your calendar. And then I create easily remembered bit.ly links for my Calendly. So when someone says, can I show you something? I can quickly type back, and then they can come up on my calendar. But also blocking time on my calendar so I don't get overwhelmed with meetings.
Wow, the bit.ly advice is it seems like a very, very good. I didn't think about that.
Because then it just rolls out of your head, so, your own custom bit.ly link that relates to your Calendly. So mine are my initials, a dash, and then the amount of minutes.
Awesome. Another startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is currently doing great things?
I think Notion is really becoming a great tool in tech, and I believe they got some AI baked in for various things. More people on my team are using it than I am, but I'm seeing them use it and really liking what I'm seeing.
Okay. A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
There's a guy named Brian Orr, ORR, who started something called the HVACR School. He runs a business with 400 employees. He's like a customer of ours, but he got me into podcasting. He runs a conference. He has an app. He does, presentations, vlogs, webinars, all kinds of things, just a content machine. And I really look up to him and the way he's organized things and keeps his sanity.
Awesome. Final question. Best business advice that you ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
It was from a supervisor in my first job, where I was complaining to him at a review. How do I know what to do, where to go, where to stop with this? And he goes, just keep going until you hit the fence. You'll know when you've hit the fence. So just like, keep going. Just
keep going.
Don't ask a lot of permission, beg for forgiveness afterwards, but don't break anything along the way.
Awesome. That's definitely great advice. And I think for entrepreneurs, a lot of people say, get started and keep on, because if you don't start and you don't do anything, I think entrepreneurship is such a unique thing where you don't know, the future. And unless you do something, unless you take any actions, I think there's no way to learn. And so I think that advice definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, don't be afraid to fail. Yeah,
definitely. Well, Bill, those were all the questions that I had. Thank you so much for sharing your time, for sharing your story, and also some of the business advice and wisdom. So yeah, thank you so much. If anybody wants to get in touch with you or buy your products, what is the best way to do that?
Bill, BILL at TruTechTools.com, TRUTECH tools.com. And then the website, of course, is TruTechTools.com.
Awesome. Bill, thank you so much again, and wish you all the very best in your future business endeavors for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.